And on that point of low self-esteem, seems to be incredibly common.
Yeah.
Confidence issues, low self-esteem, people believing like they are not enough. I remember I sat with a therapist called Marissa Peer. Yeah,
Okay.
Marissa Peer. And she said, do you know what, Steve? I don't think I've had a patient come to me that believed they were enough. Whether they're an Olympic star or they're a business person, at the heart of them, there was some kind of sort of deeper self-esteem issue. How does one go about working with someone who's got, clearly serious self-esteem issues, confidence issues?
I'm going to be almost paradoxical here and controversially almost, is to say, if you look at the neuroscience of our brain and what it's trying to do, the chimp system is naturally and healthily low self-esteem. That is the natural chimp system. And we see this not just in our system in humans, in chimpanzees. So the fear that they're not up to it is inbuilt. So if you have a fear that you're not as good as other people and you've got low self-esteem, and then you start searching for evidence, and you'll find it. You'll find it, because if you compare yourself to anyone who's excelling, you found it. That is the chimp system trying to help you. It sounds paradoxical. What it's saying is, don't put yourself in a vulnerable place where you beat your chest and say, look, I'm strong, because you could get attacked. It's better to keep your head down, wear a tin helmet, and hope it goes away. So that's how the chimp system works. So I say, if someone comes in with low self-esteem, the first step to me is accept this is absolutely healthy and natural, but it's unhelpful. So it's natural and healthy. So celebrate, you've got this amazingly healthy machine, but what it's giving you is unhealthy. So what you say is, well, why would it give me this? And the answer is so that you don't get shot down. You don't put your head up. But that doesn't mean you can't start saying, right, well, what can I do to gain self-esteem where it's reasonable self-esteem? And then you start saying, for example, don't compare yourself to others. It's not a healthy thing to do. Even wild chimpanzees do this. They have a hierarchy and they will compare and they'll jostle for position. So we're built to do similar. We jostle for position. And sport is one way we see it blatant. All right? And we enjoy that, provided we retain it as sport and not start going self-esteem on it. So we muddle the two up. And again, in, say, the typical everyday person.
Social media.
Yeah. Oh, that's a disaster area. Because again, what our chimps do is they want to be loved by everybody.
Oh, gosh.
And the evidence is quite strong that if I am your friend and I like you, okay, and then you've got another friend who is not keen on you at times, and you'll actually give more attention to the person who's not keen on you than me.
It's facts.
And that's what we do, because our chimp is based to say, I've got to be loved by everyone. So you just say, well, Steve likes me, I'm not going to bother with him. But if it's Brian or whatever, I'll try and curry favour. And you try and please these people.
Yeah.
And if you look, it's really unhealthy to do that, and it's not rational. Instead of saying, let me create a world, because I'm not going to work with my chimp system, I'm going to be a human, which says, I value my friends who I want to invest in, who do respect and love me. They're the people I'm going to give my time to. And people who find me a bit, maybe not so good or don't like me, well, that's up to them. They're not in my world. They're outside my world. So if we look at that, that's how the human system works. It builds its own inner world and says, this is how I'm going to survive the world. But social media can be a disaster, because then we look to see, well, who doesn't like me and what comments, and we give them undue attention. And that's a natural, healthy thing for your chimp to do when it's trying to get everyone on side. But it's a ridiculous thing to do, and it's unhealthy.
Is that because the chimp cares about status?
Yeah,
Status
because
is linked
in
to
a
survival.
troop, and again, not everything that chimpanzees in the wild do refer to us, but some things do overlap. And we find that a chimpanzee will always try and curry favour with the powerful chimps, because it doesn't want excluding. Excluded chimp is in trouble. I mean, it is going to die, because it's unlikely another troop will take it. And it's likely a leopard will get it. It's got to sleep sometime. So, but if you think of us as humans, we tend to see this. So you particularly see in teenagers, they try and make everybody their troop. So anyone who's rejecting them is fearful. And to the chimp, it's life and death. So to our inner system, which is chimp driven in the same way, emotionally, if we get rejected, potentially we could be kicked out. And we know that if you look at the neuroscience of the brain, particularly in teenagers, it's extremely sensitive to peer pressure. It's built at that point to start forming peer groups. So if somebody says, I don't like your hairstyle, I don't like your socks, or even worse, I don't like you, then that can be extremely damaging to the circuits. That can create damage. So we have to try and get to young children and say, right, we need to teach them, you don't have to please everybody. You please people on your terms with your morals and your values, but you self-assess. You decide whether you're good enough. You decide what's important to you. But if we don't teach them at young stage, as a teenager, we go outside that, and then social media becomes extremely, extremely dangerous.
You see that in schools. I went undercover in a school, and it was funny. I was on the playground and I was looking out, and I saw all of the boys had the same haircut, this kind of weird mullet thing, and all of them had the Under Armour backpack.
Yeah,
it was. I couldn't believe it. I was like, they're identical. This group of 20 lads who are all together, perfect mullets, and this Under Armour backpack. I think at the time when Anthony Joshua, who was the great boxer, was an Under Armour ambassador, I think the brand was becoming really cool. So, and that made me think about how we seek to conform so much at that age, and how much I did. I was wearing the skinny jeans, if that was in, and the Fred Perry top. Then I was listening to rap music, and then.
But I think that's really important to do, isn't it? Because again, if we got a child who, under the age of 10, wandered away from parents and didn't really care, that's very disconcerting.
They would be able to build a community, right?
The child should be dependent on the parent.
Right.
You know, if you get a teenager who's outside the peer group, we start getting concerned. It doesn't mean there's something desperately wrong. Some people are more isolate than others. It's on a spectrum, but it is worrying. So you like to see teenagers together, but in order to be accepted, you've got to have common ground. So our chimps always look for common ground or common experiences. So if I wear orange socks and I'm the gang leader, then you wear orange socks, and now we're all on orange socks. And if I suddenly decide they're out, then everyone starts wearing them. That is pretty healthy as a teenager because they're peer group bonding. We hope they go through that stage into what we call individualization. So around 17, neuroscientifically, the brain does change almost to the day for most people. So by 18, 19, we're starting to individualize. And that means we decide whether I want to really wear orange socks. Yeah. We get individual identities. However, again, a lot of research, obviously it's contradictory at times, but most of it shows that around that age, we have the leaders come out, which is about 1 in 4 people genetically are going to individualize and decide, I'm just going to set my own agendas, and I like what music I like and do what I like. But about 3 in 4 are semi-dependent throughout their lives. So they'll always look to some strong figure to bond with them. And that tends to be a bit insecure.
People that have this low self-esteem we talked about a second ago, are they more likely to become what we call people pleasers?
Yes, because again, they're trying to curry favour. So that's one way of coping with low self-esteem. So everyone's different. So some people might close themselves down and they'll go into their own little world and just not engage. And they don't go and join a new club or form a new hobby or make new friends because they just haven't got that confidence. So the coping strategy is to just close down. And my answer is, as long as you're happy with that, I'm not going to dispute it. But if you're not and you want to get out, let's get you out there. But everyone has different coping strategies. The next one you've mentioned commonly is to try and please people. Never say no, always say yes. Make sure it doesn't matter how much it puts you out. Never speak up. Don't be assertive. It's critical not to be assertive. So this is their chimp system saying, if you do all this, people will like you more. Sadly, the reality is they don't. People like assertive, confident people. They don't like people who suck up to them. Tends to be then there's a real danger. Now I'm going into forensics. Somebody who's in that position where they're desperate trying to please is really vulnerable to abuse. So they're going to get someone who finds them and then they'll use this against them. And then it really is dangerous. So when you look at that, my gut feel as well as logic would be to get them out of that and say, look, be very careful. If you're going to lean on someone, don't lean on them by trying to please them. Lean on them as a friend who's there to look after you, that's building you up, not controlling you.
What's happening, people? If you enjoyed that, then press here for the full, unedited episode. And don't forget to subscribe.